Hello, and welcome back, everyone, to another installment of Ask Junglr, or an Amazon advertising Ask Me Anything live. So I am going to be here for about an hour answering your Amazon advertising questions. So if you are just joining in, hey, welcome. I really appreciate you guys joining these things. And for context, my name is Elizabeth Greene. I'm one of the co-founders of Junglr. So we are an Amazon ad agency. We're focused on brands doing high 6 to 7 figures who are looking to get into the 8-figure range and really want to hit that scale. There's some different strategies actually that you really need to be thinking about and ways you should be structuring your account if you are at again, you're getting up into the 7 figures and you really want to hit that scale. There are some accounts where they've sort of fumbled their way to where they are, but when they're looking to get intentional and strategic with their ad strategy, their ad structure just isn't built out to be able to support that. And so that's where we come in. We know the structure, we know the strategy, and we know how to bring it to bear in your account if that is you and you need help with it. So if that's the case, feel free to reach out at the website. Wrong way. Screen is mirrored. But quick sort of like housekeeping things. I already see somebody in the chat. So this is a really, really great question and one that I actually have an entire video dedicated to answering. So I'm going to pull that up in a second. But for really quick housekeeping things, I have been doing this live on Thursdays, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 11 a.m. Central Standard, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. But I'm looking for everyone's feedback as to sort of when I'm doing this. And so I did put a poll out on LinkedIn, although feel free to drop it in the chat if you've got another time or another day in which it's more convenient for you to join, because I love sitting here and I love answering everyone's Amazon ad questions. It's honestly the highlight of my week and I thoroughly enjoy it. And I want to make sure that I'm making myself available to the most people. So highly recommend either heading over into my LinkedIn, hitting, just quick vote. Let me know when you think. Also, feel free to type in the comments or type it in the chat if there's another day of the week. So I've been doing it on Thursdays. If there's another day that works better for you, let me know. Other things that are kind of interesting. So I might just go ahead and share this tab as well. So if you have yet to check out our YouTube channel, now there are some people watching on YouTube. So, hey, how are you? I appreciate it. We actually put out a new video. This really interesting video on call it like there's actually a forecasting tool. We actually just got a question from a client today. So we are working on a client account. Their objective was to lower total A costs. We have been able to lower their total A costs in the last 14 days to 3%. Now, of course, that comes with asterisks. It's very dependent on the products and how they're selling and the time of year. So that does play into really low total A cost numbers. That being said, part of our what we've been working on in that account is actually budget controls. And we just got a question from the client. He was like, hey, notice that there's some really low budgets on some campaigns. Is that intentional? And my answer was yes, it is. And I actually have a video out that I just posted on why the strategy works, because there's a lot of times where even if ACoS is good on your account and you increase your budgets, you might actually be increasing your total ACoS numbers. And that's something to be aware of. So if you haven't watched that, I highly recommend you go and check it out. Again, there's also a downloadable resource you can actually use to forecast potential total ACoS impacts. You could actually kind of hijack that forecast tool to be able to kind of try and figure out what your potential total ACoS impact of a product launch would be. I would recommend that. So, all right, I'm going to remove the screen. I'm going to come back in because we have some really good questions coming in. So anyone who, again, is joining this, feel free to type your Amazon ad questions in the chat, and I will be able to get you the answers. So this is a really good question. First one right out of the gate. What should the starting bid be on a new PPC campaign? Great question, and a really hard one to answer, because the answer to it is it depends. It depends on where you're at and it depends on your strategy. So let me see if I could pull up my screen again. So this is, again, our YouTube channel. Recommend going and checking out this one. Starting bids, question mark. The whole topic is how do you choose your starting bids? And the answer is very nuanced. It depends. And I tell you the it depends questions to ask yourself. But in a nutshell, what you want to do is set your bids either really aggressively or not so aggressively, depending on the strategy for that campaign. So for example, if I had a product that I was doing a launch strategy on, I would want to make sure that my bids are really high. I'm probably going to go higher than the suggested bid. In this case, I'm going to watch it over the next 24 to 48 hours, check if I'm getting impressions, and I need to increase the bids if I'm not getting impressions. Why am I doing that? Because my strategy in that case is to gain impressions, and I need to do it quickly. So I think the questions in here, but the two things you need to ask yourself is how important is visibility to the strategy of my campaign, and then how much does it make sense to me to be aggressive here? Like how much do I really need to show up? So in a launch strategy, if it's my main launch keywords, I need to be very aggressive. Also, keeping in mind your budgets. So for example, if I have much lower budgets, then maybe I need to start more conservatively. Pros and cons to each approach is if I start with high bids, I'm going to get my data feedback a lot quicker. I can make faster moves. If my bids are much lower, then it takes longer to get that data feedback because I'm not going to get as many clicks on page 3 as I am if I'm on the top of page 1. So that is my answers. It depends. And hopefully those questions are like, some of my clarifications there was helpful for you. And again, highly recommend going and watching that video. It's going to be really helpful. And here's a great question. Hello, I have high budget for PPC on ads on a product. My word bids are high, but it doesn't spend the ad budget. My product's recommended average is 3.5. Do you think this is the reason? Good question. So your bids are high, but you're not getting a lot of ad spend. So one thing that you could do, I highly recommend you do, ad spend is determined by two things. One, your bid, and you take the, which feeds into your cost per click. So your spend is your cost per click multiplied by how many clicks you're getting. So one factor, of course, the bids are very high, so you expect spend to be high. But the second factor is you might not be getting that many clicks. How do you determine how many clicks you're getting from the impressions you're getting? I would look at your click-through rate. Now, I've said this before and I will say it again. I'm not a huge fan of optimizing only for click-through rate. Reason being is I've seen keywords where we have really bad click-through rate. I mean, like abysmal click-through rates. And then I'm seeing really, really good performance in terms of ACoS and sales. So it's possible for that scenario to happen. However, what your cost per or what your click-through rate actually is going to tell you is how much your product resonates with shoppers. So to your point, if you have your product's comment average, I'm assuming you mean the star rating is 3.5, then yeah, that could be a factor in why you're not seeing as high of a click-through rate. So my guess, and the other factor could be it depends on like what keywords you're targeting, but it is entirely possible that you just don't have keywords that have a lot of search volume. So if there's not a lot of people searching, means there's not a lot of people clicking, which means your ad spend might be where it is. And again, actually have a video coming out tomorrow on my LinkedIn. So actually I would recommend going to my LinkedIn, following me on LinkedIn, because I actually have a scheduled post going out tomorrow. That's a video clip talking about click-through rates, good click-through rate, bad click-through rates, and how I recommend that you look at click-through rates. So highly recommend following on LinkedIn. I know I'm plugging myself a lot. I'm just trying to let you know the other places that I'm putting out resources and what's coming in the pike and what I've already put out, so you guys can find that content. Kim has a great question. Following up on campaign tests, remember the test need to follow up on is real organizational challenge for me. Wondering if you create running daily Seller Central campaigns, export onto, let's see, part 2, single Google Sheet, adding a column for the date the report was ran, and then a column for the notes, assisting and following up on large number of campaigns. Yes. So Micah, is your question us tracking the performance of individual campaigns and trying to do that manually, and that's what you're looking for in terms of, oh, okay, I got it. So I'm reading part 1 again. So follow up on campaign tests. So trying to identify the campaign tests, remembering what you need to follow up on, and then going and then looking at the performance of those tests and following up on them. Yeah, that's hard. I like to make my life easy. Whenever I can make my life easy, I'm going to make my life easy. My recommendation, use campaign naming and use portfolios. Don't overthink it. You're going to try and like nitty gritty it. So the thing is that inside of Campaign Manager, you will get performance graphs, right? And then the other thing that you can do is start to take notes on, I did this day, I did this day. That can be helpful to identify what you did. You can also use the campaign history tab. But what I would do is I would either group them in a portfolio. Now, if you have a ton of campaigns across a whole bunch of products, that may be difficult. I would use your campaign names or your ad group names to keep a record or like an indicator to you as to what tests. So for example, maybe I have campaigns for a specific product and I just put test, or I put ranking test, or I put ranking, or I just put something in there, because what that allows me to do is then search that, use the search options inside of Ad Console to quickly bring up all of my tests and I can search for them. Again, another quick way is if you want to like brain dump them into a portfolio and just be like, oh, these are the things that I need to keep an eye on. Because then what you can do is you can just click into that portfolio and then you see all your campaigns and you say, okay, these are running according to, the things that I'm trying to do. And then you can click into the campaigns and allow the campaign manager graphs to be able to map the performance of those tests. You can download them into a spreadsheet and try and keep it all up to date. Just knowing how many campaigns we run, how many tests we are having, it spins out of control really, really quickly. And the more manual work, the more brain power work, the more effort you have to keep up a system, the less you're actually going to do it. The best system is the one that is the easiest to use and you actually use it. So if you make it so painful for yourself to even use the system, you're going to end up not doing it as often as you should. I mean, let's be honest. We all want to be perfect. We all want to use all the things and have these amazing charts and graphs. And we put together these huge diagnostic reports. And then we get to the end of it and we're like, well, that sucked. That was way too much effort. I don't think I could do that again. And so we don't run it weekly or monthly the way we had intended it. So again, I wouldn't overthink it. And I would just use campaign names, portfolios. And that way you can sort and filter, find what you need, do the analysis, quick and dirty, get out. Kim, hopefully that was helpful. Or other third part of the question, how do you manage so many tests and keep them straight in your head? Notes, good naming, knowing where to find stuff. That would be my answer. Cool. Making sure I didn't skip anybody. Yeah, which, by the way, I appreciate everyone's question. You guys are what make this so dynamic and so fun to do every single week. So I appreciate it. And again, quick plug, if you have a better time where you would like to have these done, or actually if you're watching the recording, feel free to drop a time frame in the chat or in the comments box, because I'll try and do my best to get things answered and try and make sure everyone can attend to the best of my abilities. Cool. So I'm planning to put an insert on my products, which have a barcode which takes the customer to a website. Is this against Amazon's policy? It will have consequences if Amazon finds out about it. It is proper to shrink wrap product and insert would be inside the box. No, you should be totally good. So the The analogy that I've heard, I don't even know if analogy is the right word, but think of it as a main brand, right? Nike has their website on their box. Other products have name brands, have some sort of insert or product that is directing you back to their website. Same exact thing. You are effectively building a brand. So the things that apply to brands and good practice apply to you as well. Now, the thing that you have to be careful of is you cannot try and manipulate or use Amazon's brand and their what they've built to promote yourself. So for example, you could say purchase on Amazon, right? But you couldn't say like Amazon's, anyways, you can't call out anything specific about Amazon, and Amazon does not allow you. So if on your website or wherever you're directing the traffic, if you said something like, if you're asking for reviews, You need to be very, very, very careful about your language that you use. Now, I'm not an expert in, compliance in this area. All I know is that you cannot in any way insinuate or suggest positive reviews. You have to be as neutral as you can. So you never be like, please leave us a 5-star review. Completely against terms of service, again, because you're sort of hijacking Amazon's brand and trying to manipulate. Again, it's not nefarious that you're trying to manipulate, but kind of trying to manipulate what happens on their platform. Those are the things Amazon's not super cool with. But if you're just directing them to your website, no, totally good. Go for it. Cool. This is a really good question. Hi, I'm Gilbert. Hi, Gilbert. I appreciate you coming in and answering or asking the question. Hopefully I can get you a good answer. So your question is, what are the strategies you can implement during an out of season products? Good question. And I will give you a pro tip of our learning that we had with a client. Because really, when it comes to out of season, run it for profitability. Don't try and push. So here's the school of thought, and then I'll let you know the test that we ran and now what we're doing now. Okay. So some of the school of thought has been like, hey, if we are off season, it doesn't make sense for us to push for product rankings on our, on the keywords that I want to rank on during the peak season, because then, I can already have some momentum and I can capitalize off of that when the traffic hits on Amazon. The short answer is no. That's actually not a good strategy. So we had a particular client. He has a very giftable product. There's like a very short window. Mother's Day absolutely crushes it for him. And he's also probably one of our funnest clients to work with because he loves running an aggressive test. He is on it. He knows what he wants to happen. The partnership has been phenomenal. And we have consequently gotten some insane results for him. However, what we did one year is we wanted to aggressively push. So the thought process was exactly what I just shared. Hey, we're headed into season. We need to be able to push the products. The thing that we found is when we push the products too soon, we ended up with things being very unprofitable because the sales weren't there. So total A cost is ad spend divided by total sales. If you push ad spend, but then total sales aren't yet coming up because there's not enough shopper search, conversion rates aren't as good, then you end up with just a really unprofitable account. So that didn't work. So basically what happened is we hit it. Sales during the peak season of Mother's Day, phenomenal, insane, through the roof. However, when we were analyzing sort of the entire, all of our ad spend for an extended period, we were seeing basically all of the profits that were gained during the peak season were offset by all of our losses because we started being aggressive too soon. And so here's what we did later on, and oh my goodness, strategy is amazing. So love Helium 10, use them. One of the things that they have is a historic graph on the search volume trends for a keyword. So we identified our top keywords and we looked at the historic search volume trends and gauged when we started to see the sale or the search term increases. And what we did is we hit it within 24 to 48 hours. We started pushing exactly when that increase started to happen. So we hit it nail on the head because conversion rates are increasing, because search volume is increasing, because sales are increasing. That means as we got more aggressive, the sales trend also trended up. Great total A costs, insanely good results with sales, worked phenomenal. So what I would say is if a product is off season, don't fight it, optimize for it, and then know when your peak season is, know what your top keywords are, watch those search volume trends and anticipate the uplift and basically ride that wave on the increases. So hopefully that is helpful. Awesome. Kim says, just what I needed. Thanks. I appreciate the question. You always come in with good questions, Kim. Seriously. Insane questions. Love them. Cool. I'm going to take a swig of coffee. Try to keep my voice up, which, by the way, I'm thinking about potentially having guests on this Q&A segment. Don't know if that's a good idea. Love to hear your comments. See what you guys think of that. And also if you happen to have any people who you would recommend for this. Cool. Another great question. When I started a business on Amazon, my listing was generic. Now I've done trademark, brand registry is also done as well, but Amazon doesn't allow me to use my brand name on my listing. What should I do? I would follow up with them. Oftentimes people have trouble, like when it first gets submitted, it doesn't go through. And so what you need to do is, just keep trying. There's been a lot of issues with, people not really getting brand registry and having to work through it. I would recommend, you're just gonna have to try and resubmit. It doesn't always happen. And I'm trying to see if I can pull up our partners. So if you need help with that, let's see. I mean, it depends where you're at. I would recommend, so if you go to our website, if you go to Junglr/partners, you actually be able to see some of the people that we've worked with before. We really, really recommend them. And so e-commerce Chris is amazing. It does a lot of listing things, but anything involving seller support is a really, really great option. And then I'm trying to see, I don't quite have him on here yet, but Brett Bowman, he also does stuff with Amazon. And so in terms of seller support, I would reach out to him. And then another one, again, we got to get them up, is Seller Candy is another great one. That one I have a direct connection with. If you want to reach out, again, if you want somebody else to help you out with it, I've got some connections I can send you. If you want to try it on your own, I would say just keep trying. Just keep trying. Cool. All right. Let's see. That one looks like it is a repeat question. Yeah. Tips with seller support. Again, I am no expert, but one thing that I've noticed is anytime you notice that seller support refers to something, be it a place in Amazon, be it a process, a procedure, whatever, do your best to speak their language. Sometimes us in like the Amazon community, we have our own way to say things. And like, so for example, like the honeymoon period, Amazon reps don't even know what you're talking about when you say that. I'm trying to think if there's another example, but there are certain things that like Amazon reps don't always like. Total ACOS is kind of like an Amazon thing. Now, a lot of like good seller reps who are keeping up with stuff will understand total ACOS, but it's not a native Amazon terminology. So whenever you can, use Amazon's terminology to the best of your abilities, because then you're speaking the same language. And a lot of the issues with seller support is communication and patience. Patience is key. All right, good question. I have a HG pair of shorts with a waist string and the other one has none. Would it be better to give these two products in their parent ASIN in the respective color combinations or combine them into one parent ASIN? Good question. So I'm not an expert in catalog work. I'm always putting these disclaimers because like whenever I'm the expert, like if I say, hey, I know Amazon ads, I will talk about it all day long. I am fully convicted of what I'm saying. When I'm answering things like, should I combine listings? I can tell you how to run ads for these type of products. And that's going to be part of my answer. But I will always put disclaimers and that I'm not pretending to be the expert. And so go consult the experts on catalog work. But when it comes to think about it from a shopper experience perspective, like, are they going to get confused that one has a drawstring or the other? Is it beneficial to have a drawstring or not? In this case, I don't know if it is or not. Like, if you think it's going to be confusing for the shoppers or they're not going to understand the difference between the two, I would keep them separate. Now, as far as running advertising for variation listings, or if you had any, what am I saying? Like, if you, one rule of thumb is if you can find shopper searches that specifically call out like with drawstring or something, that's a clue that there's good shopper search traffic there. And then what you can do if they're combined, if you're advertising on those different shopper searches, all of that search traffic, so sessions, are going to be added to the listing, which can be beneficial and be helpful for you to rank on, help product velocity. Again, if you want to talk about advertising, I have a whole talk about advertising variations. There is a interview. It's got one of these purple ones. Let's see if I can find where I talk to. Here you go. Ryan Hoffaker. He has a product variation strategy. Now, this is a bit of a longer interview. Highly recommend going and watching it, though. He has a lot of really good, and he actually built his business off of variations. And so that will probably be a really good video for you to watch to gain context on that, because I would consider an expert in variations. It's a good question. All right, coming up with them, which, by the way, for those of you joining, if you have any Amazon ad questions, feel free to drop in the chat. I will be here for, I guess I got a good another 30 minutes to go, providing we have enough questions. If not, I will hop early. But this question is, do you recommend sponsored display ads even though advertiser is spending on DSP? Yes, I do. DSP gets you a little bit more targeted, but they are helpful to run in conjunction with sponsored display ads. They do target slightly differently, although, again, to your point, there is some overlap. Whenever we run sponsored display ads, though, we will typically run them for profitability. So as long as you're running them for profitability, I think you're totally good to continuously run them together. Cool. A couple people saying thanks, which I appreciate. So thanks and thanks. My pleasure, my absolute pleasure. So again, if you have any additional questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And we'll go ahead and get those answers. A good one from Gilbert. Do you recommend use of VCPM models? Not really. If we're being perfectly frank here. So I will say I don't think it's bad to use them. I would keep things low and I would keep your budgets low, even if you see phenomenal ACoS reports inside of the ad console. So VCPM models are based off of view attribution sales models, which means as long as a shopper sees your ad and purchases your product within a 14-day date range, that sale is going to be attributed to the VCPM sponsored display campaign. Now, I actually audited an account that was doing, they were spending on sponsored display, and I was looking at it. And so for full disclosure, when we do our audits, one of the things we pull is a bulk file. And if you're using bulk files to optimize your bids, then those are actually the performance is based on a click attribution model, which means the shopper actually has to click on the ad, go to the listing directly through that ad, and then make their purchase, again, within the 14-day window, for it to be attributed to those models. So I was looking at, sort of the bulk files, and I'm like, why are you spending $1,500 on this sponsored display ad and it's showing 0 orders on the report I'm looking at? And I was, because I'm like, it's not like anything was super mismanaged in the account. I mean, there was definitely improvements, don't get me wrong, but like that seems to me like the ad manager would like obviously flag that, right? So what I did is I went and I looked at that campaign on inside of the ad console. And what I found is that if you looked at it in the ad console, the orders and the sales looked great. And so the ACoS reporting for that campaign, again, inside of Campaign Manager, was about 25 to 30%, which is well within targets. When you zoomed out and you looked at the click attribution model, it was terrible, abysmal, to the point of not even seeing any orders. And so if you want to report, if you're not familiar with bulk files and you want to report to be able to identify how VCPM models, like how they're working from a click attribution standpoint, download a sponsored display campaign manager report. And you will see, the view attribution. But if you scroll over, you'll also see some additional columns that will show you the click attribution, which means, again, they're clicking through. And like the one report I pulled on that account, it was like view attribution showed like a 20% ACoS, and the click attribution model showed over 200% ACoS, which is wildly different. And so that can happen what I would say if you're going to ask about running VCPM models is just be aware of, that potential reporting. Look at the click attribution. As long as you're seeing performance there, as long as it makes sense, as long as you're, seeing that, I would be fine to run it. But I wouldn't freak out about not having those active in my account, I guess would be my answer. So hopefully that helps, Gilbert. I don't know if you have a follow-up question to that, or if there's anything else that I can clarify there, but I appreciate the question. It's a really good question. It's a very good question. And one, actually, just, I talked to the sponsor display team, their internal team. They were very adamant that do not run VCPM models when you are doing defensive ads. Your numbers will be wildly inflated. And it's just not, it's not the best click attribution or bidding strategy. Sorry, that's the word. It's not the best bidding strategy if you're doing defensive campaigns. If you're doing defense, look for click attribution models. Cool. Looks like we're about 30 minutes in. Rocking and rolling. Not seeing as many questions come through the chat. I'm hoping that my LinkedIn profile is correctly. Yeah, it looks like I'm getting questions through LinkedIn, so I guess that is correctly rolling over. But yeah, just for a quick update to anybody, if you have a particular time frame that you'd be interested in me maybe changing it up a little bit, seeing what works better, feel free to head over to LinkedIn and hit the vote button. Or if you have a different date that you prefer, feel free to ask or hit me up on LinkedIn or type it in the chat. And for anyone rewatching, feel free to make suggestions in the comments. Cool. Question. How often do you use broad match? All the time. Every account. I will say we are less likely to use it on the launch phase. The launch phase is probably going to be the first 2 to 3 weeks, maybe, depending on performance. But we pretty much always use broad match. The only thing that I would say is caveat, we're not a huge fan of putting high bids on broad match keywords. Really easy to do if you see the performance there. But the thing that we found is that because broad match triggers so many, like the potential to trigger search terms is quite high as far as like how many search terms you're going to trigger. And so for that case, if you keep the bids low, then you're not going to be spending exponentially across a wide variety of search terms. Versus if you put really high bids, then you're putting high bids on like a ton of different stuff, and how that stuff works can vary widely. And so for that case, we keep bids lower on those match types, but we absolutely run them. And when I say lower, I just mean lower than what we typically do in exact and phrase match. Be the clarification there. Cool. I appreciate all the questions, Gilbert. They're really good. Really, really good. So yeah, if anyone else tuning in, which again, thank you so much. I love all the questions. My favorite hour of the week, really. And you guys are what make this possible. So again, format. If you have an Amazon ad question, feel free to drop in the chat. If for some reason you're catching the replay and you have a question still, feel free to drop it in the comments. We'll definitely make sure we're going to be putting a lot more effort into our YouTube channel. And this includes keeping up with these lives. So if anyone wants to drop any comments on things they want to make sure that we cover, goodness, then we will do that. Got a couple in the chat. Cool. For a new product, how many campaigns are best and which match type should we use? Good question. We would start an exact match. How many campaigns is going to be dependent on how many keywords that you find. I keep going back to the YouTube channel, but it's because we have some really great resources there. I'm going to share this tab and then add this. So it's this one right here. This private workshop recording keyword research for product launches. That's going to give you a really good idea of how we view keywords, and it's super helpful. Trust me, we get super specific into the keywords. So you are going to figure out how many campaigns based on how many keywords you find that are super relevant to the product. And if you want to go over relevancy, look at that. Go and watch that workshop. It's long, but it's good. Trust me. There's also an SOP you can download that's a part of that. And then the second thing that's going to determine how many campaigns is going to be what is your launch budget. If I have a really low launch budget, the more campaigns and the more keywords that I add to my ad strategy, the higher my ad spend is going to be. So on the flip side, if I have less keywords, less campaigns, I'm not going to have to spend as much. So ideally, in the beginning, you want to be able to have budgets that you're able to run your campaigns throughout the day. That's what you're trying to do on launch. And so you just want to make sure that you're not overextending yourself in terms of like launching 100 different campaigns with $100 budgets. Trust me, everyone who cannot support that, it's so easy to get like a campaign launch list from someone and be like, oh, this is the entire ad structure I need to do. And you'll build out this huge aggressive launch strategy. And then you'll build it and you'll look at the ad spend after 2 days and be like, oh my gosh, I just spent like $2,000 in 2 days and my ad budget was $100 a day. I can't support that. And then you're just going to start pausing everything and freaking out. The beginning, it's never a bad idea. Again, providing you're okay with asterisks, you're going to have slightly lower sales by doing a less aggressive approach. Starting low and working your way up. So hopefully that answered your question, Abdul. Let me know if you have a follow-up question to that. I'll make sure that it gets answered. Another question, how do you run PPC for products that are having difficulty in ranking with exact match types? Yes, sometimes you'll just run across this. I would go into phrase match if you're struggling with exact match. So the reason why phrase match is slightly better is only because of, again, how many potential search terms are going to get triggered through that match type. That's why we would do it. So you can get a little bit more aggressive with your bids and you're not going to trigger as many search terms as a broad match would trigger. But sometimes that works a little bit better. There are certain cases. And my guess, if you are struggling to rank, is that it's not always a PPC issue. It is sometimes a product issue, meaning your conversion rates aren't as strong as your competition. And that's the actual reason why you're having issues with the product launch. Oh, Kevin, so sweet. About guests. I follow various Amazon experts, but I must say your specific area of expertise is distinct. I like the idea of you answering questions, your analytical answers to complicated questions are worth showing up no matter time. That is so sweet, Kim. And honestly, all of your questions are like insane. I love them. They're very technical in the weeds questions and how do I make this complex problem simple? And those are honestly my favorite things. So keep asking your questions, keep showing up. And honestly, if you had a better time for you, let me know. I'm probably going to play around with times a little bit just to see what attendance looks like and how helpful I can be. But Gilbert asked another question. Do you practice search term isolation when you get keywords you promote from brand to broad phase? No, I do not. I do not like that strategy. One, because I tried it and it came back to bite me in the butt and made performance terrible. So I'm going to see if I can. Again, I'm going to plug the YouTube channel. Sorry about this. But it's because I have a lot of this content. And to be honest, I think my thumbnails and my naming structure isn't that great. So I'm not sure if people are finding it. But this why search term isolation is impossible. This one I actually filmed like a year ago. It's a really long time ago. But that basically goes into the specifics. And I go a little bit more into like I said, that scenario where the problem with negative keywords and like how it came back to bite me in the butt. So essentially, no, what we found is that oftentimes when you move something, fun fact, I can go into an account, I can straight up copy a campaign. I got the same bids, I got the same products, I got the same everything. That new campaign is not always going to perform as good as the old one. It just happens. It's one of the nuances to the Amazon ad platform. Every ad platform has its weird quirks. That's one that's a fact on Amazon. So because of that, what happens is if you put it, you promote it or you put it from broad into phrase or whatever, sometimes even though that exact search term is showing up in the new campaign, it's not performing as well as the old one. And what happens is if you cut it off from the old one with negative keywords, then you hinder that good performance. You essentially get rid of it. And if it's not performing well in the new one, then performance overall just drags down. Now, I know there's like a struggle between like, then I'm going to be targeting the search term through a whole bunch of different, like it makes a mess. So I get the logical reasons why search term isolation is very appealing. I get it. Trust me, I tried it in one account. But what I found in practicality when it comes to performance, and let's be honest, all of us just want to know what is going to work best. Not using search term isolation, again, for us, is what's worked best for getting results. So that's what I'm going to stick to. So Gilbert says, really appreciate your answers. Thank you so much. Honestly, I appreciate it. Again, I'm going to say it again. I appreciate the questions. These are so much fun to do, and I honestly couldn't do it without you guys showing up and asking these awesome questions, because they're really good ones. Ones that I've, a lot of people are looking for answers to. So you all are brave enough to step up and, give us small, good questions, and hopefully I'm giving you guys some good answers, some helpful answers to help you guys better manage your ad accounts. So cool. I'm going to take I think we got about 20 minutes left, again, providing we have enough questions. If not, we will definitely, or I may end the live stream a little bit earlier, depending on, again, what you all, how I can be helpful to you all. Yeah, so probably wrap it up in another, 5 minutes, unless anyone else has any, other Amazon ad questions at the ready. Again, if you do, feel free to type them in the chat, and we will make sure to go ahead and get those answered for you. So, fun fact, by the way, and again, if anyone has any specific answers that they're looking to get, but all the way at the bottom, if you guys are interested, we're actually not letting many people know, but we put out a newsletter. So this goes out on Tuesdays. One of our last newsletters we went over like a really extensive way to put out audits. As of right now, and I'm building up a whole bank of about 30 different newsletters that we put out. I try and make them very tactical, very strategical, and very specific. That's the kind of newsletters I like. Would love to hear from you all if that makes sense and that vibes with you guys or not. I find with newsletters, when they cover 20 different topics, I kind of zone out. Actually, fun fact, the only newsletter I consistently read is one that is always on topic and very specific and very nitty-gritty, to the point, get in, get out. And so that's how I'm writing our newsletters. Again, preference. I don't know if that vibes with the community or not. But any information that I'm putting out in the newsletter, I have yet to publish it anywhere else. So you're getting, and there's been a couple times where I have a YouTube video in the bank that I pre-released it to the newsletter. So there are some who are getting, so for example, this one, launching campaigns with bulk files, there's an entirely free template here with, you can actually launch sponsored display, sponsored product, and sponsored brand ads through bulk files. And there's actually a template along with this video that was pre-released to our newsletter, I think about 2 to 3 weeks before we even put the video live, which means you guys had 2 to 3 weeks of a way to more scalably launch your ad campaigns. So if you have yet to join that, highly recommend going and joining that. There also, I think if you're joining in on LinkedIn, there is this in my profile. If you go to my profile, there's a join our newsletter, which is going to take you to a button as well, and you can go ahead and join there. So, all right, looks like we're pretty good with the Amazon ad questions. There's been a lot of really good ones today. Highly appreciate everybody who joined. And like I said, again, I'm going to be back here potentially same time, same place next week. Thursday. All right, we got a last minute question squeaking in here. Let's get this one answered. I'm not ranking on certain keywords. However, I have higher sales on those keywords than my competitor. What may be my problem? My question is, how do you know? How do you know that you have higher sales on those keywords? Now, you might have higher sales than your competitor. That often is the case. But do you know if you have higher sales through that one search term? So it is entirely possible for, say, a bestseller, right, to be highly ranked on a whole bunch of different keywords. And yet there's always those other keywords where they're not very well ranked at all, or there is a lot of their competition that are outranking them. And that is because ranking is determined on a search query level and not on, like, say, a keyword or an overall general level. Now, BSR is sort of like the sum total of all sales, but search page rank, search query ranks are determined by the specific performance on that specific shopper query. And that is why even if you are getting general, like more overall sales, you may not be getting more sales, or you probably aren't getting as much sales velocity or as good a conversion rates through that one specific keyword. And that's why you're not ranking as high on that one. Now, how do you fix that? Honestly, it's just going to be probably targeting the keyword and exact match and pushing your budgets to see, again, your goal is to increase your sales velocity and potentially look at optimizing your keyword or your listings as well. You want to get good conversion rates and you want to be able to have high sales velocity, again, on that one specific shopper query. So we're going super targeted here. Again, BSR is like we just need to increase sales in general to get better than our competition. Search term or search page rank is getting very, very specifically better than the competition. So hopefully that was informative and helpful. And yeah, it's difficult sometimes. But to be perfectly frank, unless you're reading somebody else's business reports, and then even then, in the business reports, you can kind of figure it out by search query performance. So if you could find like their search query performance report, maybe you can get more insights. But to be honest, there's really no way to know how you're doing versus your competitor, again, on a search query level or a search page level. You can figure it out overall pretty well, but getting super specific with that is a bit more. Data's not really there, if we're being honest. And I don't ever see Amazon releasing your data to the public. I would hope they wouldn't release my data, and so they're probably not going to release your competitor data as well. Cool. So that was a really great last minute question. I highly appreciate it. Again, feel free to join same time, same place next week. So thanks. You are very, very welcome. I appreciate the question. And so I'm going to wrap it up. And again, if in the meantime, if you have any more Amazon ad questions, feel free to leave them as comments underneath, any of these recordings, or, feel free to reach out to me and we'll make sure to do our best to get your questions answered. Thanks.